Now staying with rugby, I'm joined on the line by Tony Mckeever, who's vying for the presidency of the Eastern Province Rugby Union. Tony, welcome to Sport on Prime Time. The list has just been announced and you're up against 4 other candidates. Are you in with a shot? And if so, why are you going to be elected the president of the Eastern Province Rugby Union?
Evening, Simon. It's because I have more experience than all of those individuals put together. Going back to Super Rugby, and I think we would recover Eastern Province's Super Rugby status instead of, there's no voice looking to defend or protect or recover the commercial rights of Eastern Province Rugby Pty Limited. I saw that you mentioned earlier in your broadcast that maybe the Melbourne Rebels might also be up for a culling. There's been a lot of rumour mongering, and some of it has been that the Cheetahs and the Kings and the Melbourne Rebels will be cut. And if you take a perspective and you know that the Cheetahs have been in Super Rugby for the last 11 years, they've probably spent on average around about 50 million a year. So that would be a collective investment of about 550 million. The Kings themselves, also going back to 2006, have also spent on average in the order of about 30 million a year, so that's another 330 million. And then the Melbourne Rebels are in with about 240 million. So collectively, people talking about the exclusion of the Cheetahs and the Kings and Melbourne Rebels is a collective investment in these franchises of about 1.1 billion rand. And then you've got to factor in the fact that each of these Super Rugby franchises plays out of the super stadiums. In Eastern Province Rugby's case, we're talking about the Mandela Bay Stadium, and that is a 2.5 billion rand stadium, and it was built with an anchor tenant playing Super Rugby all the way through. So it's almost inconceivable that nobody should be standing up, putting up their hand and saying, hold on a second, how can you just allow 1.1 billion to go awry of investment? And if you are excluded from the Super 18 tournament, one then needs to have another tournament to play in. What are these teams going to play for? So my experience in running Super Rugby and in procuring sponsors is self-evident, and certainly the other candidates have been active in club rugby, and there's a vastly different calling and skill set that is required to go from club rugby all the way up to Super Rugby.
And I take it you've had discussions with SARU to that effect, because I'm sure they also have a vested interest in making sure that they have a professional rather than an amateur running Eastern Province Rugby Union. Well,
interesting you should say that. SARU have no influence on these elections other than to conduct them. And Monty Tabata, the administrator, is overseeing these elections, which are going to take place on the 8th. So it's not only for the president, but for a deputy president, a vice president, and then there are other executive members that will make up a new executive committee of 7. And then you also have to, last time you and I spoke, we were talking about the liquidation of EP Rugby Pty Limited. So that's another wrinkle that needs to be sorted out. The EP Rugby Union executive that's going to be voted in on the 8th of April will assume full operational and financial control that day. And you can't have people learning on the job. You need people to hit the ground running and, where the rubber meets the road, as it is.
Absolutely. So it becomes a bit of a political game amongst the clubs in Eastern Province Rugby. Do you feel like you have the support of the local clubs or enough numbers to get you across the finish line?
Yes, I do. It's quite fractured in the other positions. I sent the list through, and you've seen the list earlier on of all the nominees, and there are some 78 to 80 clubs that will vote on the 8th of April. And the support that I'm getting is from a wide range, outlying areas, and Eastern Province Rugby is so vast. It has 7 sub-unions and a collective of about 80 clubs that will vote. So one needs to hit a majority vote, probably 51% plus. And I believe I have the support from a wide-ranging constituency of Eastern Province, from outlying areas, Uitenhage, Hankey, Humansdorp, Jeffreys Bay. It's extensive, even up to smaller areas like state level.
Right. Well, you mentioned that these are uncertain times. Reports saying that the Melbourne Rebels, the Cheetahs, and also the Kings in jeopardy if SANZAAR were to restructure the Super Rugby tournament. However, I must stress that no one really knows at this point what's going on. But it means that if you do become president, there's going to be a lot of lobbying and deals to be made and a lot of support that you will need from SARU. Do you have that support?
Well, I think you're making the inference that I have a cross to bear with SARU. I think SARU want to see a peaceful resolution. They want to see rugby flourish. You cannot have rugby in this country by excluding Eastern Province. You just can't, or the Eastern Cape. And I would include Border and SWD in there as well, because they're part of this. They are the flanking unions. And coming back to SARU, it's in SARU's interest to have Eastern Province in. You just cannot have rugby without Eastern Province. It's a categorical fact.
I think we all understand that argument that has been put forward before. But the sustainability of the franchises, if SANZAAR might be cooking up a plan to cull a few of their franchises, these are worrying times ahead, aren't they?
Simon, you're a TV guy. What was crafted in terms of the broadcast deal with SANZAAR was 18 teams playing Super 18 rugby through till 2020. The problem with SANZAAR and all of the other unions face right now is viewership is down and on-site spectators are down. So that needs to be looked at collectively, not just by SANZAAR or by people from New Zealand Rugby Union like Steve Chew. And then you've got Bill Culver over at the Australian Rugby Union that runs that. This needs to be a collective effort and a collective brainstorming by all of the Super 18 Super Rugby franchises, not just a collection of a few gentlemen, because they haven't been able to sort this problem out. And I think there's enough ingenuity, enough innovation, and out of disruption comes innovation. And I think if you put all of these Super Rugby franchises around the table with SANZAAR, you will come up with a number of solutions that will increase spectatorship and increase viewership.
Tony Mckeever, you said it yourself, D-Day is the 8th of April, and we'll see what happens then, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Simon.
We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us here on Sport on Prime.